What does a director actually do? What's your day-to-day schedule?
I think the most important thing to say, the director, if you look at a hierarchy, it's at one position, but I really think the director's position is kind of like a hub in the middle of the wheel. And I think at a place like ISB with different school divisions, a major inclusion program, which we're very proud of, we have the activities, we have just so many different things I could mention right now, an incredibly strong arts program. How do we bring it all together? Well, one of the few ways we bring that together is through a director. How do we make sure that we are going to collectively decide where we want to go as an institution, as a learning organization? Well, the director's got to play a key role. So that idea of connecting people, it's not above, it's at the middle, right? And I think a lot of the role that I play here is making sure that we have people aligned in our conversation, our beliefs, deciding how we're going to get better, and then making sure that we do it. But ultimately, it really comes down to this whole question of what's good for the students. And are we doing better by the students today than we did yesterday? And if we can answer that question, and holistically say, after a year's time, are we better than we were last year? I think your director's doing a good job. And if you're not, then I would need to make some improvements because on my own role, because the key thing here is that we're moving forward as an institution.
What are your goals for this school year, and what are your top priorities?
Well, in terms of goals for the school year, they're not really mine. I think they're all of ours. With the COVID pandemic, our goal is a pretty humble one of trying to make a normal school year as possible, given the situation, keeping everyone as safe as we possibly can, considering the pandemic that's surrounding us. And I think once we manage to get through this situation that we're in, then we can start looking at ways in which the school can develop further. And one of the things that again attracted me about coming here was this idea that ISB has always been progressive in its thinking, trying to do what the very best is we can for our students, and I could be a part of that conversation.
In 2011, you successfully guided your school through the devastating aftermath of an earthquake and a subsequent tsunami. How will you use your experience in crisis management and apply it to the current situation?
As you asked that, I do flash back because that was a very intense period. It wasn't just a tsunami and earthquakes, it was actually radiation as well. And where we were, within a couple days there was no gas in the gas stations, a lot of the food was off the shelf, and we were still getting aftershocks. It was a very stressful time, and one thing that I really learnt through there, and that was a very sort of acute crisis that came upon us very quickly, was that how people respond in a crisis can really be very different. And another thing that's a bit unique to this COVID situation is that everyone's going through it at the same time. This in a strange way has really brought the world together. This whole idea we're all in this together is true on a small level in a family, within a community like ISB, within a country, within the world. And so in so many respects it's different, but the fact that it's affecting people in really adverse ways, and literally people are dying from this, means that there's a care we need to take for our entire community that is the same as whether it's earthquake, radiation, tsunami, or it's a pandemic. And trying to understand the emotions people are going to have and their responses, it's going to be different. And so if anything, what I would say is there's an understanding at times like this that we're all human and we all need to respond in a caring way and in a way that's going to keep us as safe as we possibly can.
What difference do you hope to make at ISB?
I think as a leader at a school, that question really should be almost a collective one. That we want to move forward as a school, and what does that mean? How do we judge our success? We know that it's all about students, it's all about their learning. And so one of the impacts I need to have as a leader is bringing together some of these aspirations, articulating what they are, because we will do this collectively, and then deciding how we're going to accomplish that. Because standing still at a school is never an option. If we're not moving forward, then we're sliding back. And so we need to decide what future progress looks like, how it's going to be good for our students, and how it's going to be good for the entire community.
On what criteria do you judge your success as a principal?
The criteria for success for me as an educator is the same as it was when I was a teacher in the classroom. And it's not my success, it's the student's success. And that's something that I really, really enjoy, and I get a lot of energy from when we can see as a team, as a group, we progress together, we can do things. And when you start to see students coming into their own, when students are doing things, discovering things about themselves they wouldn't have if they weren't here at the school, it's just incredibly rewarding. And really that has to be the answer for every educator, is how you're successful is when you see kids being successful. And my gosh, if that's the sort of thing that excites you, then you're in the right profession. And I think for me, I'm in the right profession.
Why did you want to come to ISB? I've seen you've been to Japan, to Southeast Asia. Why Belgium?
I have actually traveled to Belgium 3-4 times, and I've actually visited the school a couple times before I moved here. Once was about 5 years ago. I came to a workshop, and I got to see it, and my gosh, what a beautiful campus. Who doesn't love it? And also, I was here as part of the accreditation last year. And to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't have applied for this job if I wasn't here for that accreditation. And I didn't get to see what type of school it was, what sorts of people were here, the vibrancy of the community. It's the sort of place that you can see falling in love with pretty quickly.
What do you hope your kids are going to get out of this school then?
For me as a father, and I think this is probably shared by most of our parents in the community, I really want my kids to find something in life where they are passionate, that they really enjoy what they do for a living, and that they can help discover part of that while they're here at the school. I think that childhood is an amazing time. You move through the teenage years, it can be some of the most fun of your life, and I want them to be at a school where they can really live life to the fullest. That being said, I'm also a very big believer in making sure that you're challenging yourself, and whether they choose to do that through academics or through other things, it's really important to me that they're not just sitting back and being passive. I really want them to be active and involved, and I think somewhere like ISB, there's so many options for them to discover themselves.